Imagine you're given a mission from God Himself, but instead of feeling honored, you're terrified. Your heart races and fear overtakes you. That's exactly what happened to Jonah, a man whose story became an epic tale of redemption and faith. This is the story of Jonah, the reluctant messenger. Stay with me, because you'll never look at this incredible story the same way again. Jonah, the son of Amittai, was a prophet. One day, God spoke to Jonah and gave him a clear command. Go to the great city of Nineveh and preach against it, because its wickedness has come up before me. But Jonah? He wasn't having it. Nineveh wasn't just any city, it was the heart of the Assyrian Empire, known for its cruelty and violence. Jonah feared not only for his safety, but also despised the people. He didn't believe they deserved God's mercy. So, what did Jonah do? Instead of heading to Nineveh, he ran in the opposite direction. He boarded a ship heading to Tarshish, miles and miles away from his intended destination. Jonah thought he could outrun God. Have you ever tried to avoid something you knew you couldn't escape? That's Jonah's story right here. While Jonah was aboard the ship, a massive, violent storm arose. Winds roared, waves crashed, and the sailors panicked. They threw their cargo overboard to lighten the ship, but nothing helped. The sailors, fearing for their lives, began to pray to their gods. Meanwhile, where was Jonah? Deep in the ship, fast asleep. The captain woke him up, urging him to pray to his God for mercy. When the situation continued to worsen, the sailors cast lots to determine who was responsible, and the lot fell on Jonah. They demanded to know who he was and what he had done to bring this disaster upon them. Jonah admitted, "I'm a Hebrew, and I worship the Lord, the God of heaven, who made the sea and the dry land. This storm is because of me." Imagine the weight of his words. Could you admit your own guilt so openly? The sailors, confused yet desperate, asked what they should do to calm the storm. Jonah told them to pick him up and throw him into the sea. Reluctantly, they obeyed, and as Jonah went overboard, the storm ceased. In that very moment, something miraculous happened. A giant fish, prepared by God, swallowed Jonah whole. He was in the belly of the fish for 3 days and 3 nights, a moment of reflection, repentance, and prayer. Imagine being surrounded by darkness, water, and despair. Yet, in that suffocating space, Jonah turned to God. He cried out, "When my life was ebbing away, I remembered you, Lord, and my prayer rose to you. Salvation comes from the Lord." On the 3rd day, God commanded the fish to spit Jonah out onto dry land. Humbled but determined, Jonah finally made his way to Nineveh. He delivered God's message. 40 more days, and Nineveh will be overthrown. Shockingly, the people of Nineveh believed Jonah. From the king to the poorest citizens, they repented in sackcloth and ashes. God, in His infinite mercy, spared them from destruction. But Jonah? He wasn't thrilled. He was angry that God could forgive the Ninevites so easily. Isn't it ironic? The very man who experienced God's mercy firsthand struggled to extend it to others. God used a simple plant to teach Jonah a profound lesson. As Jonah sat under the hot sun, God provided a leafy vine for shade. The next day, God sent a worm to destroy it, leaving Jonah exposed. Jonah complained, and God responded, "You have been concerned about this plant, but Nineveh has more than 120,000 people who cannot tell their right hand from their left. Should I not be concerned about that great city?" The story ends here, with God's question hanging in the air, challenging not just Jonah, but all of us. The story of Jonah teaches us about obedience, mercy, and the boundless love of God. What would you do if God called you to step outside your comfort zone? Would you run, or would you follow? Let Jonah's story inspire you to trust God's plan, even when it feels impossible. Share this with someone who needs a reminder that God's plans are always bigger than our fears.